Right, just a few opening remarks from me. So welcome to Tynecastle for the dawning of a new era at the club. And before welcoming the main act, I just want to say a few thanks to a few people who thoroughly deserve it. Firstly, thanks to Liam Fox for expertly guiding us away from what was a precarious situation, and all at the club wish Liam all the very best as he moves on to the next stage of his career with our very best wishes. I'd also like to thank Kilmarnock FC for their cooperation in this process. They've been very easy to deal with, and that's made life a lot more straightforward. Thanks also to my colleague, Sporting Director Graeme Jones, who's led this process professionally and expertly, which has led us to where we are today. And linked to that, I'd also like to put on record my extreme thanks to Gary Locke for his invaluable insight and input into this process. You've heard a lot from me over the last year or so, so on this occasion I think it's important that you hear from the football people, because today is all about football. So without further ado, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my colleague, our Sporting Director Graeme Jones, and the head coach of Heart of Midlothian Football Club, Derek McInnes.
All right.
Derek, how are you feeling right now?
Delighted, absolutely delighted. Obviously, it's been kind of last few days a bit problematic, no straightforward. Sometimes when there's change, there's such as a way, but the opportunity to manage Hearts was just everything I wanted, to be honest. I've always felt this was a club that I wanted to manage. I think it's a good fit. I think they can match my ambition and what I want, and equally, hopefully I can give them what they want. The intention is to try and deliver silverware, bring sustained success in the pitch, and just be the biggest animal we can be, and try and meet the expectation that's there from everybody. It's obviously managed before of a similar sized club at Aberdeen, and there's similar expectations, but I feel as though we've got so much going for us here at Tynecastle and at Hearts that there's a real excitement about being the guy to take it on. And with what's in structure there behind us, the support network, you know, I feel as though it's something that we can really get our teeth into and do well here.
The way it ended at Kilmarnock, Derek, you feel a little bit sad about that? About the way it happened?
Yeah, I need to say it was none of that was. I've got nothing to apologise for, because I loved my time at Kilmarnock. It was a brilliant club, and had made so many good friends and relationships there, and made some real highlights. You know, and a lot of time with these things, there's a lot of emotion or sometimes a lot of pain when there's decisions to be made. But ideally, it would have been done at the end of the season. But obviously, when it first got muted about Hearts' interest, I spoke to Billy Bowie. I told him I didn't want to leave the club until the club was safe. And if there could be an agreement between Hearts and Kilmarnock, it's something that I would like to explore. I wanted the opportunity to speak to Hearts and take this job on. So. And I think Billy, with the right intentions, you know, and he's somebody that Kilmarnock are so fortunate to have him. He plugs the holes all the time. His investment, his commitment to the club is undeniable. And when I met Billy on last Tuesday, he'd asked me to take the team for the last 2 games. And obviously, it was something that I'm going to do what I'm told. I'm the Kilmarnock manager at the time, and I just wanted to work with the club until we could get it resolved. So, but before the game on Wednesday against Motherwell, I spoke to the board again, and I just thought this had to be my last game. I just thought Sunday's game would be too problematic, too antagonistic. I wouldn't want to do that to the Kilmarnock supporters or my players at the time, and I just thought the game should have been played without me, as it did yesterday. So the club agreed to that. So all in all that, and I wanted to speak to the press on Wednesday after the game, and I get stick for no speaking, but the club asked me not to speak. It was a club instruction. They said they didn't want me to do an interview after the game, so I complied with all that. But see, ultimately it's never easy, these things, and for the sake of a few more days it might have been a bit But for me, it's all about the new start with Hearts. Kilmarnock will go on, and it's a brilliant club, and they'll appoint a new manager. But for me and my family, this is what I wanted, and I was open and upfront that with Billy and the board. So here we are, and it's all about trying to kind of move forward now. And football, things change pretty quickly, and I feel as though this can really get everything I want from the job. Andrew
has described this as a new era for Hearts. It does seem to be quite an exciting time with potential new investment coming in. You're going to have pretty much a blank canvas in terms of players coming in because of the Jamestown Analytics. What, in your opinion, will define success?
Well, I think initially what you want to do is just deliver what's expected, what the Hearts support expect from the team, and then in time, let's go and exceed those expectations. You know, that for me, having the Jamestown support network as a manager is vitally important, and I think it does give us an added advantage over other teams. And you know, that support network is brilliant. As long as we utilise it to its maximum, I think we can be something that can be of a real support to the manager. They'll help me build the team, the squad, and I'll build the team. You know, it's up to me to deliver on the pitch. It's about players ultimately. I want to work with good players. I believe that Graeme and his relationships with Jamestown and the club's relationship with Jamestown can help us get more good players into the club. So for any manager, you ask anybody, you just want to work with good players, a good way of working, and ultimately it's just about trying to get those players to perform on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and that's my job. And I believe I'm good at that. I believe it can only be a success here. And we do have a lot of advantages at Hearts. You know, the support is clear, the stadium, the infrastructure, the budget that's afforded to the manager here. It's important we try and utilise that to full capacity. But with those advantages, doesn't excuse us in other aspects. So players have got to work harder than every other team. We've got to work more effectively. We've got to have a togetherness and be able to tap into the support we've got. It doesn't just come automatic because you've got all these advantages, and it's important that everybody realises that here we're going to have to work for everything we're going to get, whether it's recruitment, day to day, certainly a match day and a Saturday, and it's up to me to drive those standards and set the pace.
Graeme, can I ask you about, I think it's your first appointment. I know you were involved briefly in the Neil Crickley one, but why Derek?
He was the standout candidate from the process we went through. We looked at both inside Scotland and outside of Scotland as well. Obviously Jamestown play a part. They provide, you know, the analytics side of things and the information within that, but it became very clear to me as I went through the process, and then when I eventually met with Derek, that he was the outstanding candidate, and I'm delighted to be sitting alongside him today. So,
how has it been the last few weeks, though, in terms of having to tell a manager it's time to move on, just 6 months after he's in?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's character building. It's sad when somebody loses their job. It's another human being. Neil was a good man. And a good coach, but it just didn't work out, and as a result the last 3 weeks have been intense. Part of me, I don't know if this is a bad thing, quite enjoyed it. It's doing some corrupt in that, I don't know, but it's really satisfying to get to today and to have Derek McInnes alongside me, because I can't wait to get started now.
Derek, and finally from Derek, we've heard this morning that one of your former colleagues, Tony Docherty's lost his job. That's an indication of just how frail football management can be.
Well, it is, and it's becoming more and more difficult as we go along. I spoke with Doc at length this morning, and obviously he was in anticipation of what was getting delivered, the news to him. And it is sad, particularly when it's people you know and have worked closely with. But I think in time people reflect Tony, for his first job, did a good job there. And sometimes it doesn't work out. You don't know all the ins and outs of why. But I think he's shown in his time at Dundee over the last couple of years, and certainly his time as my assistant and as a colleague, he's got a real capability, and I'm sure he'll go on to work for somebody else and do a good job elsewhere.
Derek, the squad has really performed under expectations this year. A lot of disappointment around the club about that. How much work does this squad need to start putting them in the direction you want to take them?
Well, clearly there's work needing done, because, as you say, what we served at this season falls short of what we expect. I also look at it, obviously I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of the squad and conversations with Graeme going forward. But looking from the outside in, obviously playing against Hearts often enough, and there's a lot of good players here. And we need to try and find a better way of working to try and get more results, because ultimately, if we don't, then we fall short, then it doesn't look good on anybody, and I want to make sure that my time here is a success. So I'm going to make sure I put together a squad that can meet the demand, and a lot of the current players were a huge part of that, there's no doubt about it. And I do think there's a capability here within the squad, and with the right additions and the right kind of tweaking of the squad, then we can look forward with a lot more optimism, I think, for the season ahead, and that's the intention, clearly.
Two players with futures still unresolved in Craig Gordon and Lawrence Shankland. How quickly would you like to sort them out? How quickly can you speak to them about that?
Well, I think as soon as we finish this, I could probably get going with that sort of stuff. Lawrence, I know more than Craig, but both are capable players, have proven they're good players here, and I just want to work with good players. So these conversations will be had, as they will do with the majority of the squad over the next wee while. But obviously, spending a bit of time with Graeme over the next few days and really kind of homing in on what we need for the start of the campaign, and hopefully, it's when the window closes, the squad will be more rounded, maybe a bit more balanced, and a bit more what I would want it to be for the challenges ahead. Because, as I say, it's important that we've got the answers in the building. It's important we've got the squad that can meet the demand here. And there is a demand, and we should all relish that. Players, myself, Graeme, everybody, there's a demand here, and if none of us are doing my job right, then it's no good enough. So it's important we do our job.
There's a lot of talk about the sort of style of football that Tynecastle responds to, and the way that the team and the stadium kind of interact. What do you see that as getting the best out of that dynamic?
Well, I think they tap into what Tynecastle offers. Like, every team that, when I watch press conferences, they all talk about the atmosphere. They all want to come to play at Tynecastle. It's brilliant, and too many teams enjoy coming here, to be honest. And we'd like them to enjoy the atmosphere, but at times in the warm up and all the rest of it. But once the game starts, don't really want them to enjoy it. And I think of the best Hearts teams that I come up against as a player and as a manager, whether it was Jim Jeffries' first team, George Burley's teams, Craig Levine's first teams. The time when you come out here at Tynecastle, you get hit between the eyes pretty quickly, both physically and with an aggression and a pace and an intensity that sometimes I feel when teams come here now, teams are and start to kind of, it's a bit sanitised. Once the kick off goes, teams enjoy it, bed themselves into the game. I'd like it to be the opposite. I'd like players to think that they don't want to go to Tynecastle as much as they have previously, and it's such an intimidating place. For that, we need to have our players enjoying that atmosphere and thriving on that as well, and just try to get a wee bit more demand and intensity and use the crowd that we've got, because not every club has got the fan base that we've got here, and it's important that we try and tap into that rather than that being something that's a negative. Let's use everything we've got to get positive results.
Jack, what are your thoughts on the Tony Bloom investment? What can that do for the squad?
Well, I think from the outside looking in, before I got offered the job, was that whoever gets that Hearts job has got a brilliant opportunity, because I think it's clear that the Jamestown Analytics system operates well at other clubs. I think there's a body of work there and evidence there that it does work. I, for one, on the explanation of it, feel so invigorated and excited by it, and I think it's quite working with the director of football and having those sort of support network, the analytics, isn't always commonplace in Scotland, but it is more common in Europe and the continent. But Jamestown have proven that they're such a leading operator, and they will provide the answers for our questions, really, when we're looking for places in the squad to be filled and different options. Then we feel we've got that kind of real lead and advantage over every other team, because when you actually get into the nuts and bolts of it, it is so exciting, and it is a system that I believe will work. And that, for one, I think we're fortunate to have that at Hearts, and I'm fortunate to have that as a manager.
In terms of your role here, last season there were two managers at Hearts. What assurances did you have coming into this one?
What, sorry?
In terms of what assurances did you have coming into this role after Hearts having two managers last season?
You don't get assurances as manager. You just have to go and start the season well. The fact it's a 4-year contract, the positive conversations I've had, I've met spoke to everybody on the board. You know, I feel as though we can have a brilliant thing going here. I think we've got a lot of the tools that's needed, and we just need to drive it forward. Now it's my job to bring success and the players' jobs. I do believe we can win silverware, and that's got to be the objective right from the get-go, and have that sustained level of success, whether that's creating more and more value on the pitch, getting into Europe year in, year out, going the full way in cups, and eventually exceeding expectations in the league. You know, as a bare minimum, we should be in the top half of the table, getting amongst the European spots. I think that's what Hearts fans expect, and it's something that we need to try and get to that, meet that expectation first, and then see where it takes us.
You've obviously brought Paul and Alan with you from Kilmarnock. How important was that, and what will they bring?
Yeah, delighted. Obviously, when I spoke to the club about, every manager wants to try and bring their own staff. I've not got a big circle. I've got a small circle, but it's really tight, and it's people that I trust implicitly. And 2 guys who have been managers in their own right, and 2 guys who not only played with but have worked with now for a period of time. So very experienced, very capable guys. They're as excited as I am about the opportunity that's there for us. So delighted that I've got my own staff. I think it must need to mention as well the job Liam did in the last few weeks as well, and his time at Hearts. I think he's done well. And I know Liam is looking to try and get back into management as well. But I think for me, it was important that I brought people that I've worked with in the past. And you know, when you get a chance at a club like Hearts, the job, you want to bring people with you.
Do you see this, Derek, as a fresh start for everybody at Hearts now, because it has been a really hugely disappointing season?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look back at the previous season and Nazy gets to 3rd in the league, and there was a lot of optimism going into the last campaign, and for whatever reasons it's not really been able to build on that. And I think everybody's got to look at reasons why that is the case. Recruitment's a huge part of any manager's success, and we want to try and make sure that we get more right than wrong. I think it's important that there's an honesty that every signing you make there's always an element of risk. All we want to do with the Jamestown Analytics and the support that we're getting from those guys is the fact that we can minimise that risk as best we can, and we get players who can deal with the expectation. It takes more than just being a good player to play week in, week out at Hearts. You've got to have so much more under the bonnet. You've got to have that competitiveness, game in, game out, and we've got to try and work with a level of player that meets the demand. And you need to have a strong mentality with that. You need to have so much more than just being a good player. And I feel we can fill the squad with the budget that's afforded to me and Graeme. We'll try and do the best we can to put a squad out there that the Hearts fans want to turn up on a Saturday, can't wait to get to Tynecastle to see their team play and ultimately winning games.
You've been linked with this job, I think, for the last 6 years or so, Derek. How does it feel now to actually be sitting there and holding that scarf up out there and sitting in the home dugout?
I always felt it was a good fit. I always felt, obviously, having worked at Aberdeen, you know, you get a taste for being at the top end of the table in cup finals, playing in Europe, and there's no doubt that I wanted a part of that again. And obviously got a taste of Europe with Kilmarnock last season and had so many highlights. It's difficult for any club to sustain that, particular club like Kilmarnock. But they gave me some great times. But for me, the opportunity to manage Hearts has been something that I've always seen looked right. I just needed others to think that as well, to be honest. And it feels right being here. It feels right walking into the stadium today. It feels right meeting the staff. It felt right meeting every day at the Orium today. I just can't wait to get started. I hope it comes across how excited I am about the challenge. It's given me a proper opportunity to be successful, and I'm determined to make the most of it.
Graeme, can I just ask one more about the process? How heavily involved or otherwise was analytics? And also Andrew mentioned that Gary Locke was involved, giving insight into what part he played in it.
Yeah, the analytics helps inform part of the decision making, but they're neutral with all, so that the output is just detailing, you know, what the analytics say, and they don't have a specific view or an opinion. Gary Locke was great because he gives the coaches and also the sort of fans' perspective coming from the foundation of Hearts, which is invaluable. But the process was led by me and went through the various options that were available both in Scotland and abroad, and as I say, it landed very, very clearly for me in my report to the board, which of course they've gone with, which is good, that Derek's the main man for us.
Can I just ask you, Graeme, on recruitment? Looks like Christian Borchgrevink has been announced as coming. There's been a couple of the names, Kaiseridis and Chesnikov, have been reported. How close are you to more new signings coming in?
So Christian's already signed and played his last home game at the weekend for Vålerenga. There'll be more, information to come out in due course. But today's about Derek, so I'll just leave it there.